Lily Chen sat in her father's study, her hands trembling as she stared at the marriage contract spread across the mahogany desk. At 18, she had dreamed of college, of traveling, of falling in love with someone her own age. Instead, she was being sold to save her family's textile business from bankruptcy. "Richard Park has agreed to clear all our debts and invest in the company," her father explained, his voice heavy with shame and desperation. "In exchange, he wants a wife. A young wife who can give him the family he never had." Lily knew of Richard Park by reputation, a 55-year-old business mogul who had built an empire in real estate and manufacturing. The newspapers called him brilliant but ruthless, a man who had never married and was known for his cold, calculating approach to everything in his life. "He's older than you, Papa," Lily whispered, her voice barely audible. "He could be my grandfather." Her father's face crumpled with guilt, but his desperation overrode his paternal instincts. "Lily, we'll lose everything. The house, the business, our family's legacy. Your mother's medical bills alone will bankrupt us. This is our only option." Lily thought of her mother, lying in the hospital bed where she had been for 3 months after her stroke. The medical expenses were crushing them, and her father's business had been failing even before the medical crisis. She looked at the contract again, seeing her future mapped out in legal terms that felt like a prison sentence. "What kind of man buys a wife?" Lily asked, tears streaming down her face. "A lonely one," her father replied quietly. "Richard Park has everything except a family. He wants children, a legacy. He's promised to treat you well, to give you everything you could want." Everything except freedom, Lily thought bitterly. Everything except love. As she signed her name to the contract, Lily felt like she was signing away her soul. Chapter 2. The Wedding Day. The wedding ceremony was held at the city's most exclusive hotel, a lavish affair that felt more like a business merger than a celebration of love. Lily stood in the bridal suite, staring at herself in the mirror, while a team of stylists put the finishing touches on her appearance. The wedding dress was exquisite, a creation of silk and lace that had cost more than her family's annual income. But despite its beauty, Lily felt like she was wearing a costume for a role she never wanted to play. The young woman in the mirror looked like a stranger, polished and perfect, but hollow-eyed with fear. "You look beautiful, dear," said Mrs. Kim, Richard's elderly housekeeper who had been assigned to help Lily prepare. "Mr. Park will be very pleased." Udi. The ceremony itself passed in a blur of faces she didn't recognize and words that felt meaningless. Richard Park stood beside her at the altar, tall and distinguished in his expensive suit, but he might as well have been a stranger from another planet. He was handsome for his age, with silver hair and intelligent eyes, but his expression was as cold and businesslike as she had expected. When the minister asked if she took Richard to be her husband, Lily's voice caught in her throat. She could see her parents in the front row, her father looking guilty, and her mother, who had been released from the hospital for the ceremony, looking heartbroken but resigned. "I do," Lily whispered, the words feeling like a betrayal of everything she had ever wanted for herself. Richard's kiss was brief and perfunctory, more of a business handshake than an expression of affection. As the guests applauded, Lily felt like she was drowning in a sea of expectations and obligations that had nothing to do with her own desires. The reception was elegant, but felt like a funeral to Lily. She smiled and accepted congratulations from people she didn't know, all while feeling like she was watching her own life from outside her body. Chapter 3. The New Home. Richard's mansion was even more intimidating than Lily had imagined. The sprawling estate sat on 10 acres of manicured grounds, with a main house that looked more like a museum than a home. As their limousine pulled up the circular driveway, Lily felt her stomach clench with anxiety about what the evening would bring. Mrs. Kim gave Lily a tour of the house, showing her the formal dining room, the library, the multiple sitting rooms, and finally, the master bedroom suite that would be her new prison. The room was elegant but masculine, decorated in dark woods and rich fabrics that reflected Richard's taste rather than any consideration for a young wife's preferences. "Mr. Park's study is on the first floor," Mrs. Kim explained. "He works very late most nights, so you probably won't see much of him during the week. He travels frequently for business as well." Lily wondered if Richard's absence was meant to be a comfort or a warning. She wasn't sure which would be worse, being ignored by her new husband or being subjected to his attention. "What does he expect from me?" Lily asked quietly, dreading the answer. Mrs. Kim's expression softened with sympathy. "He's a good man, dear, despite what people say about him. He's just lonely. He's never had a family, never learned how to be close to people. I think he hopes you can teach him." The irony wasn't lost on Lily. She was supposed to teach a 55-year-old man how to love when she was barely more than a child herself, forced into a marriage she didn't want with someone she didn't know. As evening approached, Lily found herself alone in the master bedroom, wearing a white silk nightgown that had been laid out for her. She sat on the edge of the enormous bed, her heart racing as she waited for Richard to appear and claim his marital rights. When she heard footsteps in the hallway, Lily closed her eyes and tried to prepare herself for whatever was about to happen. Chapter 4. The Unexpected Revelation. Richard entered the bedroom quietly, and Lily could feel his presence, even with her eyes closed. She expected him to approach the bed immediately, to assert his rights as her husband without consideration for her feelings or fears. Instead, she heard him move to the sitting area near the windows. He had changed from his wedding suit into a silk robe and pajamas, but his posture was tense and uncertain. For several long minutes, neither of them spoke, the silence stretching between them like a chasm filled with unspoken fears and expectations. "I know what you're thinking," Richard said finally, his voice quieter and more vulnerable than Lily had ever heard it. "You're wondering what kind of monster buys an 18-year-old girl and forces her into marriage." Lily didn't respond, but her silence was answer enough. Richard turned to face her, and Lily was surprised to see pain and uncertainty in his eyes, rather than the cold calculation she had expected. "The truth is, I don't know what kind of man that makes me either. I've spent my entire adult life making business decisions, treating everything as a transaction. But this isn't business." He moved closer but stopped several feet from the bed, maintaining a respectful distance that surprised Lily. "I want you to know that I will never force myself on you. Never. What happened today was a legal ceremony, but it doesn't give me the right to your body or your affection." Lily stared at him in shock. This wasn't the conversation she had expected to have on her wedding night. "Then why did you marry me?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Richard sat down in the chair across from the bed, his expression weary and sad. "Because I'm 55 years old, and I've spent my entire life building an empire with no one to share it with. I have more money than I could spend in 10 lifetimes, but I come home to an empty house every night." Chapter 5. Growing Understanding. Over the following days, Richard proved true to his word in ways that continued to surprise Lily. He arranged for her to have her own bedroom in the east wing of the mansion, a beautiful suite decorated in soft colors that felt more suited to her age and personality than the masculine master bedroom. He also enrolled her in online college courses, allowing her to begin working toward the degree she had thought she would never be able to afford. When Lily expressed interest in literature and writing, Richard quietly arranged for her to have access to his extensive library and even hired a tutor to help her with her studies. "I don't understand why you're being so kind to me," Lily said one evening, as they shared dinner in the smaller, more intimate dining room that Richard had started using instead of the formal dining hall. "Because kindness is the only thing I have to offer that you might actually want," Richard replied. "I can't give you back your freedom or your choices, but I can try to make your life here as pleasant as possible." Their conversations during these dinners became the highlight of Lily's days. Richard was intelligent and well-read, with stories from his travels and business dealings that fascinated her despite herself. He asked about her studies, her interests, and her dreams with genuine curiosity and respect for her opinions. Lily began to see glimpses of the man Richard might have been if he hadn't spent decades building walls around his heart. He was funny when he let his guard down, thoughtful in unexpected ways, and surprisingly vulnerable when he talked about his own childhood and the loneliness that had shaped his adult life. "I never learned how to connect with people," Richard admitted one evening. "My parents died when I was young, and I was raised by a series of nannies and boarding schools. I learned how to succeed in business, how to make money, how to command respect, but I never learned how to love or be loved." Lily found herself feeling sympathy for the lonely boy Richard had been, even as she struggled with resentment toward the man who had purchased her like a commodity. Chapter 6. The Shift. 6 months into their marriage, Lily realized that her feelings toward Richard had shifted in ways she hadn't expected. What had begun as fear and resentment had evolved into something more complex, a mixture of sympathy, respect, and genuine affection that confused her. Richard had never broken his promise about physical boundaries, but Lily found herself noticing things about him that she hadn't seen before. The way he listened intently when she spoke, the gentle way he treated Mrs. Kim and the household staff, the quiet generosity he showed to charities and causes he supported. "You're not the man I expected you to be," Lily told him one evening as they walked through the mansion's gardens together. "What kind of man did you expect?" Richard asked, though his tone suggested he already knew the answer. "A monster," Lily admitted. "Someone cruel and selfish who would use his power to hurt me. Instead, you've been kinder to me than anyone has ever been." Richard stopped walking and turned to face her, his expression serious. "Lily, I need you to understand something. The kindness I've shown you isn't exceptional. It's the bare minimum of how you deserve to be treated." "I've been thinking about something," Lily said, gathering her courage. "About us, about this marriage." Richard's expression grew tense, as if he was preparing for her to ask for a divorce or an annulment. "I know this isn't a real marriage," Lily continued, "but it's not exactly fake either. We've become friends, I think. Maybe even good friends." "Yes," Richard agreed carefully. "I'd like to think so." "So maybe we could try to make it something more," Lily said, her heart racing as she spoke the words she had been thinking about for weeks. "Not because we have to, but because we want to." Richard stared at her in shock, as if he couldn't believe what he was hearing. "Lily, you don't owe me anything. You don't have to offer yourself to me out of gratitude or obligation." "I'm not," Lily said firmly. "I'm offering because I care about you and because I think you care about me too." Chapter 7. The Choice. Richard's response to Lily's offer was not what she expected. Instead of joy or relief, his expression filled with anguish and uncertainty. "Lily," he said quietly, "I've spent months trying to give you back some measure of choice in your life. I can't take that away now by accepting something you might regret later." "But what if I don't regret it?" Lily asked. "What if this is what I actually want?" Richard began pacing the garden path, his internal struggle visible in every movement. "You're 19 years old. You've been isolated in this house with me for months, with no contact with people your own age, no opportunity to experience normal relationships. How can you know what you want?" His concern for her well-being, even at the cost of his own desires, only reinforced Lily's growing feelings for him. "You're right that I haven't had normal experiences," she said, "but I've had time to think, to observe, to understand who you really are." "Lily, I'm old enough to be your father," Richard said desperately. "People will judge you, judge us. They'll say I manipulated you or that you're only with me for money." "Let them say what they want," Lily replied with surprising firmness. "I know the truth. I know that you've treated me with more respect and kindness than men my own age might have." Richard stopped pacing and looked at her with an expression of wonder and disbelief. "You really mean this, don't you?" "I do," Lily said, "but only if you want it too. Only if you can see me as more than just a young girl you rescued from poverty." "Lily," Richard said, his voice rough with emotion, "I see you as the most remarkable woman I've ever met. Your age isn't what makes you special. Your intelligence, your compassion, your strength in the face of impossible circumstances. The admission hung between them like a bridge spanning the gap between their different worlds. Lily felt her heart racing as she realized that Richard had just confessed to loving her. Then, maybe we can try, Lily said softly, to build something real together. Chapter 8. The New Beginning. The shift from friendship to romance was gradual and careful, with both Lily and Richard proceeding slowly to ensure that their feelings were genuine rather than born from circumstance or obligation. Richard continued to give Lily space and choices, while Lily worked to understand her own emotions and desires. Their first kiss happened 3 weeks after their conversation in the garden during a quiet evening in the library. It was gentle and tentative, more of a question than a demand, and it left both of them feeling hopeful about the possibility of real love growing between them. "Are you sure about this?" Richard asked, his forehead resting against hers. "I'm sure about you," Lily replied. "I'm sure about us." Physical intimacy developed naturally over the following months, with Richard's patience and gentleness helping Lily overcome her initial fears and inexperience. He treated her like precious treasure, always ensuring her comfort and consent, and their connection deepened in ways that surprised them both. Lily's college studies continued to flourish, and she decided to pursue a degree in social work with a focus on helping young women in difficult circumstances. Richard supported her goals enthusiastically, even offering to fund a scholarship program for girls from disadvantaged backgrounds. "You've inspired me to think beyond just making money," Richard told her. "I want to use my resources to make a difference, the way you've made a difference in my life." Their relationship faced challenges from the outside world. Richard's business associates were skeptical about his young wife, while some of Lily's former friends couldn't understand her choice to stay with a man who had essentially purchased her. "People don't understand that love can grow from the most unlikely beginnings," Lily said one evening. "They think that because our marriage started as a business arrangement, it can't become something real." "Let them think what they want," Richard replied, pulling her close. "We know the truth. We know that what we have now is real, regardless of how it started." Chapter 9. The Transformation. A year and a half after their wedding, Lily and Richard had created a life together that neither of them had imagined possible. Their love had grown from mutual respect and understanding into something deep and lasting, built on shared values and genuine compatibility. Lily had completed her associate degree and was working toward her bachelor's degree in social work. She had also begun volunteering at a local women's shelter, using her own experience to help other young women who found themselves in difficult circumstances. "I want to start a foundation," Lily told Richard one evening. "Something that helps girls who are being forced into marriages or other situations against their will. I want to give them the choices I didn't have." Richard's pride in her was evident as he listened to her plans. "I think that's a wonderful idea, and I'd like to help if you'll let me." Their foundation, which they named Second Chances, became a passion project for both of them. Richard used his business connections and resources to fund the organization, while Lily provided the vision and hands-on work with the young women they helped. The irony wasn't lost on either of them. A marriage that had begun with the removal of choice had evolved into a partnership dedicated to giving choices back to others. "Do you think we would have found each other if circumstances had been different?" Lily asked Richard one night as they lay together in the master bedroom that had finally become truly theirs. "I don't know," Richard admitted. "I might have been too set in my ways, too afraid of vulnerability. And you might have chosen someone younger, someone who could offer you a more conventional life." "But we did find each other," Lily said, "and maybe that's what matters." Richard's transformation had been as dramatic as Lily's. The cold, calculating businessman had become a warm, generous man who prioritized his relationship and his philanthropic work over pure profit. "You saved me," Richard told Lily on their second wedding anniversary. "Not just from loneliness, but from becoming someone I wouldn't have been able to live with." We saved each other, Lily corrected. Chapter 10. The Challenges. Despite their happiness, Lily and Richard faced ongoing challenges that tested their relationship. The age difference that had seemed less important as their love grew became more noticeable in social situations, where Lily was often mistaken for Richard's daughter rather than his wife. "It bothers you, doesn't it?" Richard asked after a particularly awkward dinner party, where several guests had made assumptions about their relationship. "Sometimes," Lily admitted. "Not because I'm ashamed of us, but because I hate that people can't see past the surface to understand what we really have." The judgment from others was constant and sometimes cruel. Society columnists continued to speculate about their marriage, with some suggesting that Lily was a gold digger, and others implying that Richard was taking advantage of a naive young woman. "Maybe we should have children," Lily suggested one evening. "It might help people understand that this is a real marriage, a real family." Richard's expression grew serious. "Lily, I want children with you more than anything. But only if it's what you truly want, not because you're trying to prove something to people who don't matter." The question of children had been on both their minds as their relationship deepened. Richard longed for the family he had never had, while Lily found herself imagining what it would be like to raise children with a man who had shown her such patience and love. "I do want children," Lily said. "I want to create the kind of family I never had, the kind you never had. I want to show our children what real love looks like." Their decision to start a family was met with mixed reactions from their social circle. Some people saw it as validation of their relationship, while others viewed it as further evidence of Richard's manipulation of a young woman. "Let them talk," Lily said firmly, when Richard expressed concern about the gossip. "Our children will know they were wanted and loved. That's all that matters." And the process of trying to conceive brought them even closer together, as they shared the hope and anticipation of creating new life together. Chapter 11. The Growing Family. When Lily finally became pregnant, their joy was profound and unshakable, regardless of what anyone else thought about their unconventional love story. Richard was attentive and protective throughout her pregnancy, treating her like precious cargo while still respecting her independence and strength. "I can't believe we're going to be parents," Richard said one evening as he felt their baby kick for the first time. "I never thought I would have this chance." "You're going to be an amazing father," Lily assured him. "You've already shown me how patient and caring you can be." Their daughter Emma was born on a snowy December morning, and Richard cried when he held her for the first time. The baby had Lily's delicate features and Richard's intelligent eyes, and she was immediately the center of their universe. "She's perfect," Richard whispered, his voice filled with wonder. "She's absolutely perfect." Lily watched her husband cradle their daughter with infinite tenderness, and she knew that their love story had created something beautiful and lasting. Emma would grow up knowing that she was wanted and cherished, that her parents had chosen each other and chosen her. The birth of their daughter also marked a shift in how others viewed their relationship. It was harder to dismiss their marriage as a business arrangement when they were clearly devoted parents working together to raise their child. "She looks just like you," Richard told Lily as they sat together in the nursery watching Emma sleep. "She's going to be as beautiful and strong as her mother." "And as kind and generous as her father," Lily replied, leaning against Richard's shoulder. Their Second Chances Foundation continued to grow, and Lily found that her experience as a mother gave her even more passion for helping young women who found themselves in impossible situations. She wanted to ensure that other girls would have the choices and opportunities that she had ultimately found, even if they came through unexpected circumstances. "One day Emma will understand how we met," Lily said, "and I hope she'll see that love can come from anywhere, even from the most unlikely beginnings." Chapter 12. The Legacy. 5 years after their wedding, Lily and Richard sat in their garden watching their 3-year-old daughter Emma play among the flowers. Lily was pregnant with their second child, and their life together had evolved into something beautiful and lasting. Emma had Richard's intelligent eyes and Lily's gentle spirit, and she was the light of both her parents' lives. Richard, who had never known how to interact with children, had proven to be a devoted and patient father, while Lily had found that motherhood came naturally to her. "She's going to have choices," Lily said, watching Emma chase butterflies with pure joy. "She'll never have to marry someone she doesn't love or sacrifice her dreams for financial security." "Thanks to you," Richard replied, his arm around his wife's growing belly. "Thanks to the foundation you built and the example you're setting." Their Second Chances Foundation had helped hundreds of young women escape forced marriages and abusive situations. Lily had become a respected advocate for women's rights, while Richard had used his business influence to support legislation protecting vulnerable young people. "Do you ever regret it?" Richard asked, a question he still posed occasionally despite years of evidence to the contrary. "Do you ever wonder what your life would have been like if you had married someone your own age?" Lily considered the question seriously, as she always did. "I think about it sometimes," she admitted, "but I can't imagine loving anyone the way I love you. I can't imagine building a life with anyone else or creating something as beautiful as what we have." Their love story had become legendary in their social circle, not because it was conventional, but because it proved that genuine connection could transcend circumstances, age, and social expectations. "We've proven that love isn't about age or circumstances," Lily said, leaning against Richard's shoulder. "It's about two people choosing to see the best in each other and build something beautiful together." Richard kissed the top of her head, still amazed by the woman who had transformed his life so completely. "You were 18 when you married me," he said softly, "but you were wise enough to see past my mistakes to the man I could become." As the sun set over their garden and Emma ran toward them with flowers in her hands, Lily and Richard knew that their unconventional beginning had led to the most conventional ending of all, a family built on love, respect, and the courage to choose each other every day.